this is going to be kind of a free agency preview here. So the Browns have a few guys here that are fascinating as far as should they bring them back? What do their contracts look like? Um, and just kind of how is this all going to play out? So before we talk about some of them individually, just give you the list of guys here. Zadarius Smith, Shelby Harris, Sione Taki, Harrison Bryant, Jordan Elliott, Corey Bajorquez, and Anthony Walker Jr. So, Tony, out of that list of guys there, who do you want to come back? Who do you think will end up coming back?
I would take all of them back except for Harrison Bryant. I would let him walk in a heartbeat. Never mind. Zadarius Smith, I would bring back on a reduced deal because he could not stay healthy. He was one of those injury bug type of guys. Shelby Harris was solid for us. Taki, absolutely need to bring him back. Harrison Bryant, get the hell out of Cleveland. Jordan Elliott, I could care less. Borges, absolutely need to bring him back, and I would love to have Anthony Walker back. Not a massive free agency class for us in terms of players we could lose, but definitely some key pieces that we would likely need to retain, if for nothing more than extra depth. Because, again, injuries. We'll see how common the injuries are going into next season and see if we need a lot of these guys will likely be big contributors once again if brought back. But they got to stay healthy. They have to actually contribute. But as of right now, I'm okay with bringing everyone back except for Harrison Bryant.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. Unfortunately, for those of you who do not know, I will go ahead and make myself look like an idiot. I'll just throw this out here. You can make fun of me. It happened. I got to accept it, live with it, and move on. I did at one point bet Harrison Bryant over one reception. So I needed him catch the ball once. And of course he didn't. And yeah. So I agree with you. Harrison Bryant can kiss my ass. Sorry. Don't care if he's here or not. I think the Browns need to, Njoku was great. I still like Jordan Akins. I think he can come back. He's more of a Watson guy. And with Watson being out, I wouldn't mind bringing him back on a cheap deal. But like you mentioned, some of these guys like Bajorquez, you have to bring him back. I feel like that's a must. Jordan Elliott, Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, those three, I personally think at least two of them need to come back. And with Jordan Elliott being younger, I would be willing to guess that he's gone. So I would give Shelby Harris a 1-year deal. I'd give Mo Hurst a 2 to 3 year deal on a cheap contract. I know he's had his injury problems, but the stated defensive tackle for the Browns, if you can have him secured for a couple years cheap, I think that's valuable. And then the two big ones. So I'll start it off and let me know what you think on this, Tony. But with Zadarius Smith, I was pumped when we got him. I think he was a great addition. I think he had a really good year. Kind of overlooked, to be honest with you. I think he had a really under the radar good season for the Cleveland Browns. And here's the reality. He's up there in age a little bit. I believe he's 32 years old. His market, I don't see it being crazy. I know pass rushers get paid crazy money, but a guy who's older with an injury history, I don't see him getting paid a whole lot. For me personally, if it's cheap, I would bring him back for a year max. If it's cheap. But this is kind of what I want to bounce off of you here. Pause. With bringing back Zadarius Smith, for me personally, I love the depth that we have. Obo Okoronkwo was outstanding this year, and we signed him to be our number 2 opposite of Miles before we got Zadarius Smith. So I would be perfectly fine with him as our number 2 if need be. Alex Wright, a guy who you drafted, who's a raw prospect, needed some work. but he has a lot of God-given talent. He has started popping off, and especially towards the back half of last season. He was looking outstanding. Like, he was looking like he could be special. And then you still have Isaiah McGuire, who you drafted last year, who out of Missouri, who I really like. I really liked him as a prospect. He didn't do a whole lot last year, but, you know, he could prove himself more this year, given the opportunity. Then Isaiah Thomas was on your practice squad, and he's shown flashes. So my question to you, Tony, would be, if you bring back Zadarius Smith, are you kind of hindering the development of some of these young guys?
I mean, we see this with the Cleveland Guardians, for example. We are hoarding middle infield talent and delaying the development of several guys. So in a way, yes, but in a way, no. Because baseball and football, the difference with football is guys are going to need a break. You can rotate guys in 2, 3, 4 plays and be okay. As for Zadarius Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, his deal would be a void. And I believe if we bring him back, we would owe him 11 and a half, just over 11.5 million, I believe. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone on Twitter will correct me if I'm incorrect. But I don't think he's hindering the development of guys like Alex Wright, of guys like Obo, of McGuire, you know. I think he's a good veteran to have in the locker room.
Yeah.
So again, I'm okay if we bring him back. If we let him walk, then so be it. It does free up cap space. I'm kind of impartial on the whole thing. I would prefer he comes back.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird to me because like he's a luxury piece. It would almost be, and I brought this example up a couple days ago with somebody, but like the Bengals. If the Bengals were to bring back Tyler Boyd, they don't need Tyler Boyd. They really don't. But if he's going to sign cheap, sure, why not? I kind of view it in a similar light, but I don't know. Zadarius Smith is interesting, but the one that I think is the most important out of the guys who are possible free agents, Mary Kay has already reported that the Browns are highly interested and there's mutual interest in him coming back, is Sione Takitaki. I think personally, if I was Andrew Berry, I'm giving him a at least 3-year extension, right? This is a guy who was a draft pick in the John Dorsey era, who has progressively gotten better. I think he's played at a high level. He had some injury history, but this past year, I thought he played pretty damn good. And we extended him on a 1-year deal, kind of like, hey, we don't want to get rid of you, but at the same time, we're not ready to commit to you. I don't know about you. I don't know about the people at home. I'm ready. I'm ready to commit to him. I'm ready to give him a piece of this pie that is the cap space and say, hey, we view you as a starting linebacker on this defense, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. What do you think about that?
I love Sione Takitaki, and I agree. The Browns did with him with that contract like I like to do with my girlfriend. You know, a little short term. We'll see how things go.
Gosh.
And maybe I'll keep you on longer if I like you. Sometimes it don't work out, but this time it really did. And according to CBS, if you watch the games this season, he scored a couple touchdowns because their graphics kept messing up.
Yeah.
So I think this offseason, Taki is going to get himself some guapi and get paid. And he's going to continue to be a Cleveland Brown well into the future. And I'm fully on board with that. I'm pretty sure Derek just spit his water everywhere. Please.
You got to give me a second. Hold on. You're an asshole. You know that? You're an asshole. Oh, by the way, this is since this is episode 1, a little bit off topic real fast. Just want to throw that out there. Hey, Tony, you mind throwing your arm up real fast?
Oh, okay. Is this your little get back here? Is this what we're doing? I don't know. Where's my camera at?
Yeah, that's right, people.
I have Derek's logo tattooed on my arm. But there's some backstory. I was at the tattoo parlor. My regular tattoo artist that did all my beautiful tattoos, if you can see them, on my arm here. You can't really see the one I like. There we go. But her apprentice was in the shop, and she's like, "He needs some work. I'll give you a tattoo for $10." I have a really messed up DF on my arm now. So that's the backstory. So I have officially contributed more money to Derek's life than Derek's own father has with a $10 tattoo.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We're going here.
So not to get off topic, let's get back on topic. How do you feel about Shelby Harris coming in?
Yeah. Okay. I see you want to divert. Don't worry. I'll throw it in the chamber for the next time. Don't worry. Shelby Harris. It's hard to get back on topic after that.
Yeah, Shelby Harris.
I like Shelby Harris a lot. I think he was a good addition. Yeah, now you're choking. Wouldn't be the first time. Shelby Harris. Okay. I thought he was a good addition. I liked Mo Hurst better. But as far as a guy that you added, I want to say mid-season, if not start of the season, he was a late addition. Kind of late.
He was definitely late.
Yeah. He played pretty damn good. And, especially given that you're going to ask Ostino to play a bigger role in the middle. Siaki Ika. I think bringing back a veteran like Shelby Harris is not a bad idea. And plus, what is he going to get on the open market? He's not going to get anything crazy. Much. And he fits the system. I think that's kind of the biggest thing with this is like, hey, when you have guys who are older, who have bounced around the league a little bit, when you find your spot, you kind of want to stick there. You're not going to want to be on a different team every year. So, if Shelby Harris wants to come back for another year, sure, I'd take him back. Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree completely. No, he was great. For the late season edition that he was, yes, he was amazing. But transitioning to our next guy, Harrison Bryant, pack your damn bags, get the hell off of my football team. I don't ever want to see you in a Browns uniform again. You can't even catch one football when someone bets on you. Come on. What use are you, especially with the rise of David Njoku? And you got Jordan Akins as well.
Harrison Bryant disappointed me more than my father that day. I'll just throw that out there. Before we move on here real fast, I just want to talk about this guy real quick. Jordan Elliott. I mentioned it real fast. I think he is a good player. I think he sucked his first couple years, but he's one of these guys that picked up and got better and actually was pretty useful for the Browns last year, which he hasn't been his entire career. But regardless, he is a free agent. I don't think the Browns are going to bring him back just because I think he's going to cost a little bit too much just because of his age. Now, with him and this next guy I want to talk about real fast, Anthony Walker, I think it's fascinating. Tony, let me ask you a question here. Take a guess, shot in the dark, how old Sione Takitaki is and how old Anthony Walker is.
I would say Takitaki is probably closing in on 30, and Anthony Walker is probably like mid-20s.
I am shocked that you went that direction, but all right. They're the same age. And I thought Taki was way younger, to be honest. So
we probably look pretty unseasoned right now, not even knowing the age of our own players. But
I want to say they're both 29.
They're definitely in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Anything else on the free agents you want to talk about?
Gotta bring Corey Borges back for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bring Anthony Walker back as well. So the Browns have around $2.5 million in cap space right now. Kind of want us to go out and get T. Higgins, probably a pipe dream maybe, but who knows? There's speculation. I'd be okay with that. Who would you want to add, really?
Well,
you had to pick one guy from this class? Who you adding to this team?
Well, if I had the freedom to pick, I would. I don't know. I mean, probably Michael Pittman, but I mean, T. Higgins got franchise tagged. Pittman's probably going to get franchise tagged.
You're right.
A lot
Higgins
of these
did get
guys,
franchise tagged.
a lot of these guys probably ain't going to become available. But we should throw this out here. That 2.4 number, it's going to change. Denzel Ward's contract was already restructured. The Browns are going to have probably between 50 to 60 million by the end of this thing to play with, which sounds crazy. I know. How are they going to do it? Well, guess what? You can take bits and pieces, move it down the road. Some people don't want to do that. But in the modern day NFL, you kind of have to, because these contracts are they're too big. And the cap space is going up too. So
Deshaun's contract has taken a bite out of the salary cap. It's 25% of the league's salary cap. But I apologize for my unseasonedness of not remembering T. Higgins' franchise. I don't pay attention to the Cincinnati Bengals. They're our little brother. But speaking of taking bites out of things, Austino, or otherwise known as Siaki Ika, is back with what we're going to call Austino's Brownie Bites.
Oh, whoa! All right. Hot start. My fault. I was told to do a brownie review for this podcast that Tony and Derek are doing. So I got a killer brownie here you can get from your local Gecko. I'm going to unwrap this bitch. Take a bite out of it. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate this. Cheers. Brother. That's a good fucking brownie. Fuck you look on that.
Here you go. You're starting from the top here. You ready?
Yeah.
You botched that so bad.
I did.
Jacob, please leave that in.
Count that down.
Okay, anyway. All right, so there is one guy that a lot of people are speculating, and it makes a lot of sense as far as what the Browns have done so far this offseason. Of course, firing Alex Van Pelt, bringing in Ken Dorsey to be the offensive coordinator. There is one guy that a lot of people have kind of attached him to the Cleveland Browns. We know that he's going to be leaving his current team. That has been talked about. He pretty much already put out a letter saying, deuces, I'm out. Thank you. Goodbye. Right. And that guy is Gabe Davis. So, Tony, I'll let you go first. Gabe Davis, what do you think about him? What's kind of your opinion on if we bring him in?
I like him, but I just simply think he's too inconsistent. I feel like he would have a big game, disappear for 5 weeks, have a big game, disappear for 5 weeks, rinse, repeat. He can be a big play threat for the Cleveland Browns if they bring him in, but he would need to very quickly find some consistency and some rhythm with Deshaun. And I don't know how he really feel about being a number 2 again. I mean, he was behind Diggs, arguably behind Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid in terms, if you want to bring tight ends into it, which immediately, you're just trading one for another. Yes, you get your offensive coordinator, but you're behind Amari Cooper, you're behind David Njoku, and you got to fight with guys like Cedric Tillman and David Bell for playing time. Not sure if he would want to do that. Not sure if he's good enough or consistent enough to do that and actually earn his way onto the field. I wouldn't be upset if we brought him in on maybe a 1-year, prove yourself deal, but that is very unlikely. So I'm okay on missing out on the Gabe Davis turn.
Yeah, he does little to nothing for me, and I've been very vocal on the wide receiver room. It pisses me off how, at least in my opinion, I think the Browns have done a piss poor job trying to help Baker, trying to help Deshaun, help their quarterbacks. right? And I'm throwing in Baker because obviously different regime, whatever. But like the Odell Beckham trade, you traded a lot to go get Odell Beckham Jr. At the time, obviously, yeah, we were thrilled. But, in hindsight's 2020, but it's like, hey, in my opinion, use your high picks at receiver. And that's kind of my opinion here. Like, I think Gabe Davis is fine. I think he's okay, but he does nothing for me. I don't see him being a high impact guy. And my opinion, regardless of who we bring in, and there's a couple names, Marquise Brown is an option. Obviously T. Higgins was the hope, but like Calvin Ridley could be available, and there's a couple others. But if you bring in one of these guys that isn't like a solidified number 2/1, draft somebody. I'm begging you, Andrew Berry, please draft somebody. Tony knows how much work I've done on the wide receiver position. I have like 30 guys. I know way too much about them. This class is historically good. And I know like that's a popular thing to say is like, oh, this quarterback class is great. This running back class is great. I've done my homework. This receiver class is fantastic. And for me, I'm pushing the narrative. Go get Xavier Worthy. Go get Xavier Worthy, because you look at the Browns receiver room right now. You have Amari Cooper as your number 1. You're probably going to get another 2 to 3 years probably out of him. Maybe if you're lucky. And then Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman, David Bell. That doesn't really do anything for me. I think you're drastically missing something there. For me, I think you need to get a guy. Like, I think Tillman can be a guy, but where's the explosiveness? Where's the speed? Where is that it factor in this receiver room? I think the Browns have to do that. I think even if they go out and get Gabe Davis, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, one of those types of guys who can be a difference maker for you, Jalen Polk, and even if the Browns didn't want to go receiver in the second round, which I hope they do, I'm begging, please pick a receiver. I would be elated. Yes. But even if they don't, there's some guys later in the draft that I like too. Javon Baker out of UCF is going to be a monster. Like I'm telling you, he's going to be a good NFL receiver. It's probably a 4th, 5th round pick. So, we can't keep doing this at wide receiver. We just can't. So,
one thing that I will always want for the Browns is I wish we had the ability to go and grab anywho off the street like the New England Patriots did for the longest time with Tom Brady. I wish we had a guy like Bill Belichick that could go to the trailer park and pick out Nathaniel Cleary and make him a top wide receiver in the NFL. But that's just, unfortunately, that's not the case. And we continue hitting and swinging and missing on these wide receivers. And eventually, we got to stick one somewhere. It's rough. Even if it's free agency, if it's the draft, if it's a trade, I hope we add another dynamic wide receiver. Something's got to be done. We got to help Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. And that's not to say I don't like the guys we have. I still believe in Cedric
No, they're
Tillman.
great.
Yeah, I still think there's some promise there, but like the Michael Woods of the world, the David Bells of the world, I know there's a lot of people who want to think he's this great receiver and you're waiting for him to break out. You know what he is. I mean, we kind of know what these guys are. So you have to make changes. Everybody wants to talk about $230 million. Everybody wants to talk about the trade. Guess what? Health is the number 1 thing, but number 2 is surrounding him with the best talent you can. And in my opinion, I don't think the Browns have done that. We've tried. Elijah Moore's okay, but I think at this point he's a number 3 at best. So the song and dance of, oh, let's draft a guy in the 4th round and hope he turns out to be great. No, take your high pick, take a guy that you know is proven. Do that. If you don't want to do that, then put your big boy pants on and go trade for somebody who is good. We can't keep doing this. So,
when you really want to think about it, the Cleveland Browns wide receiver situation oddly mirrors our quarterback situation, where we tried for years to bring in a serviceable quarterback. Even though it's not as important or not as noticeable, we're doing the same thing with wide receivers. I mean, think of it, who's the last wide receiver that we have truly developed? Traded for Amari Cooper, traded for OBJ, traded for Jarvis Landry. It's just been
Josh
Gordon.
Rashard Higgins, maybe.
Higgins was okay.
But
he's not a superstar. We got to go draft a guy that can be serviceable for more than 2-3 seasons. And something has to be done. If Josh Gordon could have laid off the reefer, things would be a lot different right now, but it's just not the case.
Or if he was picked in today's era, nobody would care.
If he's picked this year, no one would give a shit. He could light one up on the field, and they'd be like, "All right, you do you."
Yeah, I'd be a bigger fan. Shit.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. Receiver's gonna be. They got to figure something out.